Hey guys, what is up? How's everything going on this Friday evening? Man, I can't believe it's Friday already. The week goes by so fast. So, let me introduce you guys. Chris Franklin, an Eagles beat writer. Introduce yourself, my guy.
Hey, Mitch, thanks for having me on, man. Chris Franklin, work for NJ.com. I'm the Eagles beat writer, covers Sixers in the winter time, but it's fun to start covering training camp. You can find me on Twitter at C Franklin News, and you can also find me there, same thing on Instagram. And it's been a lot of fun covering camp so far. It's been a lot of storylines going on, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
All right, let's just get into it. So, first things first, I just got to talk about Jalen Hurts, right? And how's he doing right now in camp? Because I heard he was like inaccurate at times. Has he fixed that, or?
It's weird because it's almost as if when it starts early on in camp, like in individual drills, you see he's worked sometimes. It's been a little inconsistent, but it starts seeing as camp is going along, he's making more of his throws and his form is getting better and better. It's at first it started out with he was good at individual drills, and then 707 and 1111, there were some inaccurate throws, but as it's progressed and going along, you started to see, especially in 707 yesterday, he was perfect. Didn't miss any throws, and everything was on target, and he put the ball at least in positions where people could make plays. So I think that was good. And then in 11-11, they're working and getting acclimated to the new offense, and you see balls are getting out quickly. They're getting out more precisely. Are there things he still has to work on when it comes to his accuracy? Sure. I mean, every quarterback needs to, and especially with Jalen when it comes to searching downfield and making plays with legs, everybody knows that he can do that. It's a matter of doing it consistently. And you're starting to see that more and more as the training camp comes along, and we'll see if he can do that in the first preseason game Thursday against the Steelers.
Man, I can't wait for preseason. It's coming by so fast. Can you just hurry up?
It just feels like the camp. We feel like we just got started with camp. Like, okay, here's the first practice. Because he knows, like, oh wait, there's a game coming up. So it goes so quickly. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame game was last night. I mean, I didn't watch that, but cowgirl trying to watch that stuff.
Wow.
But I just got to say this: how are the backups doing? Like Flacco and God, I forget the other one.
Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins. Yeah, I almost said Nate Meters. But almost said 8 meters.
No worries. It would be interesting to see him throw some passes, but hey, you make converse. But when it comes to Joe Flacco, I thought he started off slow at first for the first couple of practices, but he's been really picking it up lately, and I like the way he throws the ball accurately. Everybody knows he's a strong arm quarterback, and one thing that I've noticed that he's been doing quick as well too is getting the ball quickly out of his hands. He's been very decisive, and you expect that for a guy who's been in the league for about 14 years. He's utilizing the check downs. He's scanning the field quickly, and I think given what he brings to the team in that, as well as what he can do inside the quarterback room, giving these guys his experiences, giving them guys sharing the experiences he's seen when it comes to coverages and how to do things certain ways, stuff like that. I think it's invaluable. When it comes to Nick Mullins, he's had his moments where you can see why they brought him in. He's mobile, can throw on the run. I think he still has some issues where his bouts when it comes to accuracy at times. When he's on, he's really on. I mean, when you look at that video you saw yesterday with Darius Slay trying to defend Jalen Reagor who made a one-hand catch, that was Mullins that threw that ball. He threw it to the back pylon. It was perfectly. Okay. It was right in the area where only Reagor can make that play. He could do that, and then you'll see some throws where it's kind of it meanders a little bit, and he's working some things. He's coming back from recovering from that elbow injury and elbow surgery, and you can see he's starting to try to come back and work some things. So I don't think you'll see. I think for a third string quarterback, you got a guy who can.
Yeah, here's the catch.
That one. Yep, that one here. Yep. Yeah, I think that was him. Mullins made that perfect catch. Mullins made that perfect throw, I like saying, because definitely it hit that back pylon. And you see that. That's the only way he was getting that over Slay. So
yeah.
Kudos to him.
So you told me you were like right there.
Yeah. If you look right in the background, that blue and white stripe, like looking at the notepad right there. That's what
yeah. So you're just like, oh wow, there's a guy.
Yeah, because they were doing dueling one-on-ones on each side. So we're looking at one, looking at, and then you look at the other side, and you see the throw, you see Reagor running, starting his route, and you see Slay, and looking like, well, this is going to be interesting. You see the arc on the ball, it's like, well, this is going back, and then Reagor extends his hands, like, All right. And I keep notes on there because I do, when it comes to the QB, I do QB report every day for every practice. And I'm sitting there and I detail stuff. I'm writing down like POTD. Yeah, that's going to be a play of the day candidate for each quarterback. And that throw was definitely it for when it came to Mullins.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just looking at Rager's like attitude at the end, I love that. You gotta love it.
And it was good, especially especially what happened with him early. There's a lot made about him being Nick Sirianni being on him and wanting for him wanting to be details and see him make a comeback and make a play like that. Well, I think that was big. That was huge for his confidence.
Yeah. Now, the whole thing with like Nick Sirianni, his accountability on that, to see Rager do this and bounce back, it's just incredible to me.
Yeah, it was definitely warranted, and you like to see a coach that's able to light a fire under guys and try to hold them accountable. And you see Sirianni and the rest of his coaching staff has done that so far. I mean, you see Kevin Patul, the passing game coordinator, he was over there trying to. They're really, really focusing on doing the detailed stuff because you can see they're very particular in the way they want their receivers to run routes, and they'll get on guys when they're not doing it, but they're also, you see them running over and congratulating when they do the routes the right way. So they're trying to instill the detailed nature of running routes, and when you can do that right way and get the timing down to quarterbacks, you usually have success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, talk about routes now. How has Devontae Smith been doing on his routes before he got injured?
Before Andrew, he's fluid. You can see why the team traded up to get him. He's very quick. He knows how to get separation. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. He's very fluid when he's running his routes. You see in his hips. I think that's very important when it comes to wide receivers, the way they can move their hips when it comes to setting up a defender one way and then going across the middle, say across the middle of the field or outside, what have you, which way the route's telling you to go. And the way he was able to fluidly move around, I thought that was very good on that one too. And his hands were great. Good. They were good. The part like I could say I saw for one time I saw him actually drop a pass, which I know is rare, but it's like, oh wow, he actually dropped one. But it's a rare thing. But you see, he has the attributes necessary to be successful in this league, and when he puts it all together, it's great. And it is a shame that he has that MCL sprain because he's missing reps now, and he's been getting mental reps on the side. You saw him talking to wide receivers coach Aaron Moorhead. You see him talking there. You see him with the play script in his hand, and he's looking over. So he's keeping along, seeing what as each play in practice is going along. He's sticking along with it. So he's trying to get those mental reps. But when he comes back, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, Josh says, can Devontae read defenses good or well?
I think he can. It's early on, and he hasn't had that many times. They've been mixing up between zones and stuff. But the thing is, you'll see him. He seems to get it. He seems like they're right on the right hit on the same wavelength as the quarterback. Because the one thing that I did see that was kind of interesting that he did well was he obviously he's played with Jalen Hurts. I keep on saying regular Jalen Hurts, but when it comes to that scramble drills and you naturally see defenses start to flow to one side. Obviously, it's the quarterback go to one side, but he's looking to find the opposite way to find that hole. It's almost like he anticipates. Well, I have two defenders going over toward the left. I can like estimate where that soft spot's going to be and flash real quick so he can so Hurts can throw the ball to him. So you see little things like that as well, and it's going to be interesting to see when it gets to the actual games itself, because it sounds like he maybe missed the rest of the preseason. But when it comes to games himself, how quickly he can adapt to the NFL defenses and learn to see where his soft spots are. Because if he can adapt, he can be a really good receiver.
Yeah, and now people keep on talking about on Twitter, YouTube, his body like frame and build. Like, are you nervous about that at all? Like him getting injured and all this? Because for me, it's a game of football. Like if you get injured, you get injured.
I think when it comes to anybody on this team, you worry about when it comes to injuries. It lately seems the rash injuries seem to happen the last few years. But I think if it was really something worried, he wouldn't have been taken that high. I think if you can survive SEC football, that's a good indicator. Now, when it comes to some other things as soft tissue stuff, that's everybody expects that. It's basically how well he's going to learn to train, how well he maintains his body in between those games to try to limit those aspects. And that's with any player. So I don't have any worry about his size. I mean, if Alabama tries to bulk you up, He's another thing, and they can't vote, and they're not able to do it, but they see that hey, you still playing at a high level, and he was, and the amount of touchdowns and receiving yards he racked up with his size currently, I don't have any issues with that at all.
I don't either. I mean, it's a game of football. I mean, Deshaun Jackson was taller for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. And actually, my man Jock asked earlier, how has Hightower been?
A little inconsistent, and I'm a little, depending on the depth and how deep some of the other positions are, I'd put him on the roster bubble as of right now. Reason being, you'll see he'll make some really good pass throws down the field. Everybody knows he can run the 9 route, run the fly route, run down the sideline. He's got the speed to do that. He can get separation at times, and then it's a 50-50 ball when it comes to either he catches it or not. And those passes are tough. I mean, I'd have trouble trying to go against an NFL defender trying to catch that stuff. But when it comes to the other routes, just as Sirianni has detailed, when it comes to details, you see him one time, you'll see him run a really good route, crisp, and it looks good. Another time you'll see it, it's like, what's going on there? It throws the timing off a play and it messes things up. And given now that you have Rager, you have Fulgham, you have Ward, Quez Watkins is starting to emerge. I think Quez Watkins has passed Hightower. Then you start to get that range, whereas your wide receiver, you got to be able to play good special teams, like be a gunner or something to warrant a roster spot. And that's where I think he's going to have to play very well if he wants to have a chance to remain on the roster. So I think he has to work a little bit more of his inside routes a little bit, but the speed's there. He has to become a better all-around receiver, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And what Watkins is doing out there, I mean, he's proven me wrong because I had him not making it. I had Ward there. Oh, so he's proving me wrong right now.
He's had a really good camp. I mean, and not only with the deep routes, but I like his speed when he uses going across the middle of the field, because when it gets that a short crossing routes, those mesh routes, it can get dicey in the middle, especially trying to avoid linebackers and try. There's a lot of traffic going on inside there. When it comes to the detail that he's basically putting going 1, 2, 3, making his move. It's not a lot of wasted motion when he's running his routes right now. So I like the way he's playing, and I think right now he's about wide receiver 5 or 4. If it's like 4A, 5 right there, but I think he's really earning a spot right now.
That is good. Now to go over to the tight ends, like with this whole Zach Ertz situation, Goddard, Richard Rodgers, Stahl, how do you see them working out in his offense?
I think they'll be a very, very vital part of it. And one thing they've been working on that we've seen so far is that short passing game. When it comes not only to the tight ends, but the backs, they've been working. It's almost like the old school West Coast Dolphins, it seems like, in a way. It's like, get the ball quickly out to your receiver's hands and try to make a play and get the yards after the catch. And I like the way that Zach Ertz and Jalen Hurts, and including Dallas Goedert too, the three of them, they've been working a lot after practice, during practice, trying to get this chemistry. I think especially when it comes to Hurts and Ertz, because they didn't have that time during off season because Zach was going through his contract situation. Nobody, myself included, didn't think he was going to be coming back, and then to see him back in the field was like, oh, they're only just waiting to trade him. And then you see him again, it's like, no, they're really looking to incorporate him into this offense. So they've been working a lot on there, and between the two of them, Ertz and Goddard, I think they still give you a good 1-2 punch. And if they're able to navigate the middle of the field or occupy some of those safeties in the middle of the field and start making teams think, that only frees up more space for those wide receivers on the outside. So their success is going to be imperative for the rest of the offense when it comes to that.
Yeah. Now, do you see Zach Ertz being the first tight end, or do you see Goddard?
I think Goddard's still going to be the one. I think Goddard's still the one, and then you'll have the one, and you'll definitely see Ertz in a 12 personnel, that 2 tight end set. I mean, that's not to say that things can change, go back and forth, but I think going forward, it looks like Goddard. The team's going to want Goddard to probably be the one that stands out, but then you have him going into the last year of his contract, which is going to be a little precarious situation. But I think they want him to be the one. He's been through off-season camps. He's been through this offense a little bit longer than Ertz has. The newer offense a little bit longer than Ertz has. That's not to say that you won't see a lot of 2 tight end sets. So it's interject. You may see 3 wide receivers, and then you have Ertz one time. You may see 3 wide receivers. Goddard. They'll mix and match them, but I think right now it's Goddard 1, Ertz 2. But I wouldn't be surprised if that changes well as time goes along. But Goddard's going to be the main focus.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised they reconstructed Derek Barnett and Lane Johnson's contracts now. I still can't believe they did that. So they're really on Zach Ertz here. Like, I'm shocked right now. Like, before I would trade him for nothing because I didn't want negativity and all that in the locker room. But now I'm like, okay, he's here. Is he really going to tolerate being the second tight end, getting paid that much? Or I don't think he's going to tolerate that.
I think he's been a good teammate, and that's the one thing I will say about Ertz is he's been playing. You see him; he's interacting. He's not being standoffish. He's interacting a lot. I mentioned thing with Hurts. Saw him over there yesterday when the QBs were doing their drill, where they're throwing around the balls around, trying to work on the footwork. They're throwing to Ertz. Everybody was interacting. He's talking with teammates. He's not being standoffish at all, and you want to see that for a guy. I know he wishes he had a different situation with his contract probably, and we all know that he was seeking a trade earlier. That's who's to say that if there's a deal that comes out, a contending team loses their tight end, they call the Eagles to see what they can get. So they have options when it comes to Ertz, but it sounds like the way they're doing it now, they want to incorporate him into this offense.
I'm just glad he's being a good teammate right now because we don't need that negativity at all. Like we don't. For me, it's like negativity is contagious as I see it. But
you don't want to come in with distraction, especially when you have a new head coach who's trying to build the foundation for his program and how he wants to build things up. But I will say it's about Sirianni. It looks like he's gotten the buy-in for some of the veterans as of now. And I think that's good to start going for early on. I think the key is going to be is if they hit a rough patch, say in the middle of the season, and they're struggling and he's trying to deliver that same message, if they buy in and they still continue to do that. But it looks right now like he really truly has the buy-in of the veterans and the rest of his team.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that he came in with blonde hair. Like, where did that come from? Man?
I didn't know. I didn't recognize him at first. I'm like, who's this?
I didn't either.
Wilson. It's not Caleb Wilson. That's Ertz? Oh, okay.
I'm like, wait, where did this go? Anyways, how do you see the running backs? Like Miles Sanders, all those guys.
That's the deepest position on his team. I think that really, truly is. I think Sanders is – I like the attitude Sanders has come out with so far. I mean, not only has he looked really fast, he's looked really good running the ball. He's looked decisive, picking the holes that he wants to go. But he's also interacting with the defense, jawing with the defense like at times too. And I like that because, showing that competitive spirit, and he's looking good. I think Boston Scott's looked good as well. So Kerrigan Johnson, Jason Huntley surprised me and looked really well. I like the way he's been running toward the outside in that zone, in that zone scheme. I mean, he's been basically using his speed, getting outside, planting that foot, moving up the field, and he's been getting a lot of good yards. And one thing I say about a majority for a lot of them, they've all been really catching the ball out the backfield really well. Even Kenny Gainwell. Gainwell's been – it looks like he's still learning the system a little way, and he looks like he hasn't fully unleashed that full athletic part because he's still thinking things through because – I mean, it's coming from a college system like Memphis to an NFL system. It's like he's trying to think through his routes a little bit at times, but you see him getting more and more comfortable. And once you get that, then you start to see the athletics, the speed and the athleticism starting to come in more. And he's been catching the ball well. He's been running well too. So there's a lot of options out there. And then we didn't even talk about Elijah Holyfield, Jordan Howard. I mean, that room is really, really deep. It's a deep room. They're going to have some tough roster decisions to make.
I was thinking about the running backs a couple days ago, and I'm like, who is there to cut? Who's there to go? Because for me, I can't pick. I really can't pick now.
This is where the bottom roster management it's going to be tough when it comes to roster management because there's a scenario you could see 5 running backs stay on the roster if, and in a big if, they use Huntley as the kick returner. Because I think if I had to say right now, it was the time to cut down to 53. And if I was going to keep 5, it's Sanders, Scott, Kerrigan Johnson, Kenny Gainwell, and Jason Huntley. And that's just in my opinion as of right now. That's not saying Jordan Howard's still. I think Jordan Howard's still running the ball well. He's catching the ball. I think the only reason why I give the edge right now to Kerrigan Johnson over Jordan Howard is that when it comes to just Johnson's catches the ball more fluidly and naturally. Howard's bobbled a couple balls, but he still caught them, but it just looks like he's fighting the ball at times. And they both are good pass protectors as well, too. And say Jordan Howard can still be signed to the practice squad, and they can bring him up for games they need to. But I think that's the way the pecking order, at least the way I have it as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, they reconstructed Kerrigan Johnson's contract. Like, why would they cut him if they just reconstructed his contract? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I start trying to figure out some things in the NFL at times because you think, oh, why did this one? And then the guy's going like, what? I thought he did that. It's crazy, but they have a lot of cap space, and even though that's like, was it like 17 point something million?
Something like that.
Even though it looks like you have enough room to spot, and they could save some room in case there's an injury, not signing somebody big. I don't think they'll do that. I think it's more of a play to give them even more flexibility next season. They roll that over to the cap space they have, and then they really not only do we have two first round draft picks, two second round draft picks, and that cap space to move. They can make a lot of different changes and change that roster quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when that comes. Now, for the defensive side of the ball, how do you see Josh Sweat? Because he's been going off as of late.
He's been disruptive. He's been very, very disruptive. And just looking overall the way where he's come from being a guy who's supposed to be a first-round pick, and then he suffers his injury, and then Eagles take him, and then he's just worked his way consistently up now, and he's becoming this disruptive pass rusher. I think they have something in Sweat. And then that's not to say that Barnett himself has had a good game. Derek Barnett's played well. But it's just been that's the thing. Like when Derek Barnett's playing well, but Josh Sweat has just played that much better. And paired up with Brandon Graham, and given what this defense could do, just formation-wise, alignments and everything, he could have a really good season. I really truly believe that.
Yeah, they definitely fit in Jonathan Gannon's system, like without a doubt.
Definitely, and I like Gannon and the potential aggressiveness he has. I mean, he came from the Mike Zimmer system. I mean, he spent time at Eberflus and the Colts as well too, and just taking that knowledge into different places he's gone. And especially getting used to what we saw the last few years with the Jim Schwartz defense, where it's more play it safe, keep everything in front of you, don't let the big play go, bend don't break type style defense. I think you'll see a change to that when it comes to Gannon, and it could be it'll at least make things interesting a little bit.
Yeah, and especially having Eric Wilson having to play under him already, that's already a good sign by me.
Yeah, and that was a surprising. That was surprising. I think when you get a guy like Eric Wilson to be in the middle of your defense, I didn't expect a guy like that to be available, who was available to come to the Eagles. And given that you have them, Singleton, when he rounds back into form, because he was been on the COVID list, but when he rounds back into form, and then you still have T.J. Edwards, and then behind them you still have Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. You have a lot of options. The linebackers that are very athletic, move sideline to sideline. Some of them, you wonder about their coverage ability at times, but the good thing about that is you won't have to put them in man-to-man. You may not have to put them man-to-man all the time, because if you go ahead and use a coverage like the zone coverage, that if he decides to use like Zimmer and Eberflus does, that helps them out. That won't overexpose them too. And having a good defensive line in front of them allows them to flow freely through to make plays on the ball too. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And then heck, who knows what we see, especially if they played a little 3-4 and 4-3. You can see them making some plays back there.
There's so many combinations you can use with the linebackers. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah,
I can't wait just for the linebackers as well. And Ryan Kerrigan, that signing caught me out of the blue. That caught me out of the blue because he was always a thorn in Carson Wentz's side, and now we got him. It's like, what the how? It's just like, what the?
It makes sense. At first, when I first heard, I was like, why are they signing Kerrigan? Like, at first, it was one of those things of like, okay, is the team really going for it? Like, are they really trying to make a push? Are they retooling? Are they rebuild? You see a sign of Kerrigan, it's like, why is this? But when you see what they're trying to do now with this defense and what they could potentially be bringing to the regular season, it kind of makes sense. I mean, I mentioned earlier they were using some 3-4 looks, and to have a guy Kerrigan who has experience not only rushing the passer but playing that outside backer and dropping and being able to play in space and cover that way, I think that helps out a lot. And I think primarily it helps out guys like Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat and Teron Jackson, guys who are younger, Milton Williams too, because he's been playing some DN too, but guys who have some experience, guys who are young, still trying to find their way a little bit, or just to teach them how to be a better pro and teaching them how, like, the little ins and outs of the game, and adding to that veteran, because you already had Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox on that D line as veterans. Adding another guy like Kerrigan just only helps them out in the long run.
My God, we always need the veterans like around there for all the younger guys, which is perfect. And Darius Slay, I know he's not kind of like a veteran, but he's kind of helping out Steven Nelson too with everything going on. So how are those two working out?
It's good. You see, I'll start with Slay. Slay's still been he's been the penultimate professional, and he's had some levity at times to some of these practices. He's always the competitive. He's always got the competitive spirit. He's playing well in coverage that I've seen. And another thing that I saw that he did before he got hurt was he was working with against Devonta Smith a lot and helping him out, teaching him telling him what he saw and how he can try to get better. So he's not only helping the defense in that aspect, he's helping out Devonta Smith. Steven Nelson's getting more acclimated. I mean, he just got signed the previous Sunday, not the past Sunday, but the one before that, he signed the contract. So he's learning the system, trying to get acclimated to it as well. He had a couple bumps early on in coverage. He got beat a couple of times, but as you see his camps going along, just like some of the other guys, he's starting to feel more comfortable. He's getting in better position. He's basically fighting, and he's doing a little bit better. So overall, I still think that was a very good signing, given that you needed another secondary corner, if not only just to have a veteran presence, but to help Avonte Maddox move inside, and that gives you where he plays a little bit better. So that gives you 3 cornerbacks playing in areas where they basically perform a little bit better, and you can have a serviceable secondary going forward.
Yeah. And speaking of secondary, so Zach McPherson's been going off as late. I mean, I still can't believe we got him in a draft, and now he's going to arguably be the 4th cornerback. Do you see that?
I think as of right now, I think so. I think he's been flying around the ball. And he's got a nose for the ball. Seems like he's been everywhere. He's been breaking up passes. He's been flying across the backfield, and he's been basically, the throw's been in the middle of the field. He's been there when it goes to the outside. He seems to be there as well. And I had a lot of reservations early on. I'll be honest. This is wrong to typecast a lot of people, but when it comes to cornerbacks from the Big 12 and cornerbacks from the Pac-12, just seeing how much offense goes on in those conferences, I'm just like, you're getting a Big 12 corner, okay, but he's played pretty decently so far, and he's settled in. There's still some things he's work on, but as an outside corner, if something were to go down or they need another outside corner, he's doing well. I still think if you're looking for more of a slot guy on the inside, I think Josiah Scott's also had a decent camp so far, and if you have teams going 4 or 5 wide, I'd feel comfortable enough putting McPherson out there. I still wouldn't make him my primary guy, because still learning, stuff like that. But if it was going forward, I'd probably put Scott as of now. But I think McPherson, the more and more he learns from these veterans, the more and more he learns the NFL game, I think he could at least be a decent pick. He was a decent pickup, and hopefully he lives up to that, lives up what he's done in the first couple of weeks in camp.
Mm-hmm. It's just good for him. I always like seeing these like draft guys just blow up in training camp and get a spot. It's great. I mean, it's the competition, right? We never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot of spots that are there. Given that the young guys that the Eagles drafted last year that are still stuck around, and given the guys you just brought in with this current draft class, I mean, there's talent. I mean, spoke earlier about Jackson. Patrick Johnson's had an okay camp so far. I mean, rushing on the outside, they've been standing him up and rushing him. So you're curious to see what he's done there. Milton Williams, I'm really expecting. I'm really focusing on him because I think, giving his versatility, playing defensive tackle, being that he can play defensive end and use that power that he has and can be disruptive. And I'm not. I think a lot of people are going to look at, okay, how many sacks do you have? How many? And they look at that. I think when you look at Williams, is how disruptive can he be using his strength and pushing the pocket back? Because if he's can push the pocket back, make it uncomfortable for a quarterback, and so that he has to roll outside and let guys like Barnett and Sweat and Graham and Kerrigan, if they let them collect the sacks, he's doing his job, and that's okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a bonus if he can get sacks from the inside, that's good too. But if he can if he can push enough pressure up the middle to make things uncomfortable and set things up for that side, I think that'll be a successful season for him.
Yeah. How do you see Fletcher Cox? Do you see him going off as usual? Like, do you see him taking a step back from training camp from what you've seen?
I think he's still doing. He thinks he's doing all right. Cosby Cox. He had a couple of good training camp. There's a couple of reps he did. He disrupted a lot of things. But there's also, they want to rest him. They don't want to burn him out. And there's been a couple of veteran days where guys like Ertz, Kelsey, Lane Johnson, where they gave them some rest so they can be a little bit fresher and be prepared. I don't think you'll see, because there's not so much you can teach. There's not much more you can teach guys like Fletcher Cox in the long run, because they've been in the league for so long. You want to keep their legs and their bodies fresh for the regular season. So I think in this system, you'll see if they use more 4-3, they'll be fine. They may use the 3-4. They may use them as a defensive end in the 3-4, or may use even a nose tackle, which would be crazy to think about it. But I think he's still more suited to play that 3 technique as a 4-down lineman, and he'll be disruptive in that way. And I'm really want to see what Hargrave does. I really want to see how he responds. He started to play well toward the end of the season, and if he's Javon Hargrave of the Pittsburgh Steelers, that duo can get some pressure up the middle and make things uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, this defensive line is going to be arguably one of the best in the NFL. I can see it.
And it's deep. I mean, you roll out two, and then we talk about Hassan Ridgeway. We didn't talk about T.Y. McGill. There's just so many guys that can roll out. The only person who I've seen so far that the only draft pick that I've seen so far that's not really been like, wow, this guy's great, is Marlon Tuipulotu. And I'm sorry if I messed his name.
I can't even say his name. You're not the only one.
Tuipulotu. I believe it's Tuipulotu. I think it's that. But it still could come around. He missed a lot of the offseason camps because he was working his way back from injuries. And I think that the one reason why I'm looking forward to that more is because he played he said himself that he played in a system that was similar to this when he was with USC. So if he's playing the nose tackle, so say he's playing nose tackle in a 3-4, you want to see him be able to take 2 blocks, especially you want to see not only the center, we see him take one of the guards to free some things up, because he hasn't done that. He hasn't been that disruptor yet. And you don't want, especially in a 3-4, you don't want your center taking your nose tackle 1-on-1, and then it's like, oh, open season for the guards, go open season on your middle linebackers. You don't want that. But there's still a lot of time for him to get things right. Still a lot of time for him to prove himself, and just want to see where I hope he improves from here on out the rest of camp.
Yeah. I mean, how do you see the defense ranking in the NFL? Like for me, before we got Steven Nelson, I had them like in the middle. Now I have them like 12, 11-ish.
I think, that's a good question. I still have them probably in the middle.
Yeah.
Only because of who's on their schedule. Like, I look at that first game. I still think, personally, I think they win that opener against Atlanta, but I can see it being one of those high scoring affairs, because I know Julio Jones is with the Titans now, but Calvin Ridley still is a really good wide receiver. You still have Kyle Pitts is in the middle, and Matt Ryan can read defenses left and right and still play. So you see teams like that. You see teams like Kansas City and Tampa Bay on the schedule, and you still see some of these receivers and offenses in this division itself probably saying Washington, but that's a whole other story. But even they had McLaren though, so they're more of a steady ground. They're more evenly distributed as opposed to ceiling receiver. I think they're going to be. I still think they're in the middle. I don't think they're going to be a bottom tier one, and I think it's not. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing, but I think they may start out slow because it's a new system, and they just get better as the season progresses. So I still have them in the middle of the pack right now.
Yeah,
that could improve.
I mean, I still can't believe we got Nelson. Like, I've been saying this for months now. We had to get him, and it comes out of the blue. We got him. I'm like, I still can't believe it.
Yeah, that signing, it helped out. I think it helped out on all three levels I'll say it helped out on all three levels of defense for this. On the back end, it helped out because you moved Avonte Maddox in there inside, and it gives you more depth when it comes to your other cornerbacks. You have that, and in the middle, you don't have to worry about teams. Well, teams are going to try to attack your middle more, I think, because they know that you got cover safeties on top of safeties are high on you. So that way you have to look in the more intermediate route. And given that if you have Singleton and Wilson in the middle playing there, or even Jacoby Stevens, if he makes this team and you have him playing dime, playing that linebacker area, teams are going to have to try to attack that intermediate area more, I think. But then because you have Nelson, that gives you, I think, about another half second potentially of coverage that makes quarterbacks hold the ball extra half second, which helps benefit your defensive line trying to get to the quarterback. So some signings may be small, but they just have a ripple effect on some of the other things. And I think this could be one of them where I don't think it's not going to be earth shattering. It's not like you sign it's not Darrelle Revis coming to the Eagles back when he was his prime. It's one of those things that just helps out your overall team defense having Nelson out there.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, who's the quarterback too if it wasn't for Nelson signing with us?
Yeah, I think you're looking at more at Maddox. I think if I was D coordinator, I'd probably put Maddox back out there, and then you're looking at Josiah Scott being your nickel guy, and to have Josiah Scott and Maddox there, potentially going against say like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, and some of the other height there, it would have been a little precarious. I mean, you would have Mcpherson as a rookie starting potentially, or if you against a team that has some bigger receivers, and that could be precarious. So overall, I think that just dominoed down and just opened up a lot of other options for them.
Yeah. I mean, it took so long to sign a cornerback. I mean, I thought we would get something in the draft. I mean, we did get Mcpherson, but I thought we were going to get like Samuel, those guys. But then now we're waiting months and months and months. Now we got Steven Nelson. I mean, it was definitely worth the wait, but it took a while.
Yeah, I'm sitting there looking like, okay, as the draft was playing out and looking at the board, and once I started seeing, was it Horn went, I was like,
yep.
Ooh, and then Surtain went, I was like, well, this is going to get real interesting because I thought they would be. At first I liked Horn. I liked Surtain. I thought a little more. Then I started seeing more and more film on Horn. I was like, all right, this guy could be pretty good too, fit the Eagles scheme a little more. But when they were gone, and the Eagles, and then started seeing Smith was still on the board, but then the Giants were sitting there. It just looked like it might be time to trade back and see if you collect some more assets for something else. But they took the leap and it was able to get Smith. I was like, okay. cornerback was I thought cornerback's a need, and who's to say they don't use that? I mean, if Hurts plays well this season or well enough to warrant remaining on this roster and they feel like he could be the quarterback of the future, now you can use one of those first round picks on a cornerback or trade both up. If there's a top corner prospect, use both those picks to move up to get a guy like that. I think it's good. That's why everything I think hinges on Jalen Hurts playing well this season. So much the future of the franchise for the next 3-4 years depends on how well he plays.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm going to ask this, but I got to now. The Deshaun Watson rumors. I mean, I know it's not going to happen. I mean, would you take Deshaun Watson or would you stay with Hurts? Personally, I'll stay with Hurts.
I'll say this too. First of all, I'm giving Hurts the season. I want to give him an opportunity to show what he can do for a full season as the main guy that leads a team, not only on the field but off the field, and rallying around troops and see how they respond. Hurts has, I think, should be allowed to be given that chance in the offseason. And I'll say this: if the offense at least is finishes in like a top half of the league in offense, and it looks like things are promising and they're progressing and they're making progress, I think you give them another year after that. Now, if things come off the rails and it doesn't look like as if he's the quarterback that team should build around, then that's when you start using those assets. But given the allegations against Deshaun Watson, those are some serious things. And personally, I'm not looking toward. I wouldn't feel comfortable enough to get a quarterback like that just for not only, I think, more of the community space reaction, but there's other guys that are out there, guys we're probably not even talking about right now, that if they become available. I mean, who would have thought there was could be talk about Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson going into last offseason? I wouldn't. You never know what's going to happen. Or heck, who knows? Maybe you move up to get a quarterback, but I just wouldn't touch Watson. I just think there's too much to that situation is too heavy, and you give Hurts this year, and if it doesn't work, then you either move up to get one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, or you look to see if you can get a veteran somewhere else that's not named Deshaun Watson. Personally,
I mean, what are the odds of him even playing? I mean, the odds are pretty low of Deshaun Watson playing.
Seeing some of the other reports, and I apologize if I
you good
credit this to the wrong reporter, because I don't know if it was Schefter or Garofalo or what have you, but the fact that it said once that he's indicted, that there's talks about then he'll be put on a commissioner's list. The fact that indictment's being used, and if he is, then I think you can't do it until the criminal process is done, because you don't know. And that's just the commissioner's list sitting him out. That's not even saying if he's convicted, or if Goodell says, hey, this is conduct that damages the shield and he loses the season, or he goes through all this and he's indicted certain time, and then the league goes, okay, yeah, we'll give you a season on that. It's just too many unknowns going on with these allegations. And he can be, I'll say this, he can be completely innocent. It's all allegations. Nothing's been settled. Nothing's been proven, but it's just too many questions and uncertainty about this situation.
Yeah. And I think it was Schefter who said that. Because I remember I was getting alerts, like my phone was going off like there's no tomorrow. Schefter was saying like, oh yeah, Eagles should have all these assets, all these picks for Deshaun Watson. And I'm like, why do they automatically go right to the Eagles? Like, there's other teams that need quarterbacks too. Why should automatically the Eagles?
The assets. It's the draft picks, and the fact they've accumulated all these assets, because that Colts pick is gold. I think that Colts pick goes a long way of seeing what happens, because with Wentz out for a while after getting that surgery, if that does, I doubt it does, but if it does convey into a first round pick, those three right there are, personally, I think are enough. Maybe it felt like a day 2 picks in one of these next 2 or 3 years. That would be enough to get a lot of quarterbacks, because we know how general managers value those first round picks. And frankly, salary cap wise, I just look for the Eagles in the future. When you look at having 3 first round draft picks, having to pay 3 first round salaries, and that gradually gives up, unless they're all impact players and you hit on every single one, that can get really costly in the future. So if they traded all those away and let the Houston Texans get that, and or not the Houston Texans, but somebody else gets that, like the Packers get that, by all means go for it. But the Eagles, as long as they have all those picks and sitting there, and as long as they have that and continue to create cap space, they're always going to be mentioning a lot of stuff. Even Howie even said that too. He even said like, hey, as long as given their situation, they're always going to be named on there. Some of it's warranted, some of it's not. So it's crazy.
Now, I heard for cap space next year, we're going to have like a lot, like 40 to 50 mil. That's what I've been hearing. But this year we got nothing. Like this year I'm surprised we got Nelson for 4 mil.
Yeah. Those restructures definitely helped, because beforehand it was precarious, and you basically would have to hope that nobody was getting hurt unless you start signing people on a veteran minimum and stuff like that. But it was a really, really slim cap space, but they freed up that $17 million, and they're hoping they don't have to use any of that, because then if you roll that over 17 over to the rest of that stuff, that's huge. extremely, and they like to do that a lot. Like that's how they've been done so well with the cap space over these years. Is restructure these guys, create space, roll it over to the next year, so you're not in a pinch. And that's why they're trying to do all this stuff right now and eat as much as the Carson Wentz one, because that one's just that contract sitting on the books right now just is sticks out like a sore thumb. But that'll be gone next year, so it's bite the bullet this year and go next one with a lot more cap space to roll over. You should be good.
Yeah, this offseason for Howie Roseman is like the best I could ever think of. Like, I could never think of him doing all those trades to get Devontae Smith and then signing Steven Nelson and all these guys. I mean, like, his job is on the line. His job is on the line.
It really is. And that trade to move up to 10, it made sense because they had to have, even though they're not supposed to, what have you, but they probably knew that Parsons was going to be their pick, and the fact that they were able to, they knew that. They probably knew that too, because they probably knew the Cowboys were going to address defense, see that, moved back, and get that pick there. And it's still yet to be seen, because it looks like it still looks like they're still deciding which way to go. Like, do they want to be a contender in this division? Do they want to rebuild? And I just like the thing I like about the roster that I've seen, that the way it's currently constructed right now, I like the mixture of veterans and young guys, because when you see a lot, to me, when you see a lot of more successful teams, they have not only the veterans who are performing well, but they're building up their young talent to get ready for when to take over when they have to move on. They come too expensive, they want out, what have you. That's why I like setting up right now for the Eagles. It's a matter of they have to make sure they have the right guys that are the right young guys to take over, because they can't go out and become free agents like the Dream Team year or anything like that. They can't just buy away their problems. They have to keep continuing to develop the young talent, and they're probably hoping this draft class wants to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, do you still think Howie Roseman? I mean, do you think he's a good GM after this year, or do you still like GM like me?
I want to see I want to see more how it plays out. I mean, I like when it comes to the business side, when it comes to his contracts, when it comes to managing the cap, I really like as well. When it came to some of his decisions in the draft with having final say, and I put this on him having the final say, there's been some questions. I mean, right now you have Andre Dillard, a former first-round draft pick, who is fighting, in my opinion, is losing the left tackle battle now to Jordan Mailata, your seventh-round draft pick. Rager, I think, has still bounced back, so I'm not writing him off at all. But you look at another wide receiver counterpart, his J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, is on the bubble, potentially could get cut. He's in that type of position. So a lot of the higher draft picks haven't panned out. You need to see, you're hoping that this year's does, because I think if nobody from this draft class, if a lot of these guys from this draft class, say there's an instant scenario where Smith doesn't pan out, or even Williams or Landon Dickerson, stuff like that. If a lot of these guys that are taken high in the draft don't pan out, it's just, I don't see him survive. It has to be, I think it's one of those things where if the team just looks completely bad, if it looks like there's no direction, if this all just looks like a really bad failure, then I think at the end, but I don't foresee. I think he's back next year. I truly do believe that.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Am I happy about it? I got to see it. But how is Elaine Dickerson doing?
He's doing good, looking from the sidelines right now. He's on the non-football injury list. I mean, from his the leg injury he suffered when he was in Alabama, but you see him, and that's one thing. You see them engaged on the sideline. You see them asking questions. You see them trying to learn, getting as much of those mental reps as possible. So they have their mental reps have value in their own way. You just don't want to rush a guy back like that, especially taking him that high. I mean, this was going to be, for lack of better words, I looked at this year as an internship for him. You want to see how he learns from Kelsey, how he learns from Sayamalu and Brooks. So that way, if he plays guard, he sees what made these guys successful. If Kelsey decides in the future he wants to retire, then he can move in. He learned from him. He had a year to learn from under him and move forward and lead the offensive line that way and learn what calls to make. And offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland's really big on angles. What angles does he have to take in the middle interior line to be successful and be a road grader? So Isir, he's not doing anything physically as part of practice, but it's going to be it's good to see him getting those learning and getting those mental reps.
Yeah. Now there's this guy I know who also does YouTube as me. He went to high school with Elaine and Dickerson. Now he would keep on saying like how much of a monster he was in high school, what a locker room guy he was, and just hearing that is just music to my ears because we need that this year.
Yeah, I mean, offensive linemen. I'll say this: offensive linemen are they're different cats, and I mean that in a good way. Like they like, especially in this offensive line room, we keep hearing stories of how they keep ragging on each other to keep each other till the team anything, but it's in a good natured way where you try to get like they're a lot of fun. I think they also like they're really thoughtful guys when it comes to thinking like. Seeing what's going on in the field and their perspectives on a lot of things as well too. So you see that from offensive lineman, and when he has a guy that like Kelsey that he can pick his brain and learn from, I think that's nothing. There's nothing but good that can come of it. I mean, to me, Kelsey reminds me of Jeff Saturday, the old Colts center, and the fact that Dickerson could come in and just he's athletic when he's healthy, and the caveat when he's healthy. He can learn from a guy like that and try to be just like him. I think that can do well. It's just a matter of he has to remain healthy and keep off the injury list.
Yeah, I compared him to Michael Orr from Blindside.
All right, cool.
It's the same exact thing. I mean, if you probably seen that movie. I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
With the whole taking to the buses and everything. I mean, I don't see Dickerson doing that.
I don't like his attitude. He had to go.
All right, really quick before I know you got to go and everything. What's your prediction record for the season?
I think they finished 7-10. I think and I said this earlier. I think they draw as the season progresses. I think they get better and get better. I think they win that opener. I don't see them shocking Kansas City or Tampa Bay or anything like that. They have to go to Denver. They have to go to Vegas. I think Vegas is going to do better. And just looking at the other guy, I think the Jets, I think they win that game too. But I think they finished with 7-10. They finished off strong. And that's the main thing. If you just see progress out this team toward late, almost similar to what the Eagles did in 99 with Andy Reid, almost similar to what the Eagles did in 2016 with Peterson. If they have a season similar to that, I think they can mark it off success. And to me, 7 wins wouldn't be that bad. I don't foresee them getting 12, 13 wins.
I don't either, no.
Getting a bot, they don't need to worry. They just need to worry about development and getting better in the long run.
I mean, I've been seeing people going like 15 wins. I'm like, dude, no.
Nah.
No, not at all.
If I had somebody gave me like $1 and I'm sitting in front of like a sports book and it's like 10,000 to 1 odds, like 15 wins, that's $1. All right, yeah, but I wouldn't. As basically, I feel like I'm giving a donation to the casino as opposed to like actually getting it. So I'm like, nah, pass on that.
Yeah, for me, I have them winning 9, like 8 or 9, like around the same ballpark. But like, I don't see them winning 10 or more. No, yeah, I don't see that.
10 wins would get them.
I have them doing better than the Giants and the football team. I'm saying that.
See, New York. I think they either finish. It's going to be one of the things. New York is just. It's either going to be they're going to either win a lot of games and have a lot of success, or it's going to be an explosion of all explosions. Given that they've had the brawl, they've had all this stuff go on in a training camp. It's just been. I can't put a finger on New York right now. I don't know what's going on up there, but either they're going to do really well, or it's going to be fun to watch. Why couldn't Hard Knocks be up there this year? That'd be fun to watch.
Oh my god! I forgot about that.
That would be.
I don't watch it, so it's just like, all right. Yo, thank you so much for coming on. It's a huge honor, man. I just can't believe it. We got to do this again.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. It's great talking football with you, man. And
Yeah.
thanks again.
Yeah. And if you know anyone that wants to come on, please send them my way.
All right, we'll do, man.
All right. All right. Catch you guys later. All right. See you guys.